Okay, so we are done with the coding, but we're not done with our work. What we need to do now is to package this. So what you want to do is to create a package that is a DNN package that you just install on a site where action form already exists, and it adds this functionality. So in order to do that, we can leverage the DNN functionalities. We don't have to create it manually. So we can just create a new module. We call it a module. And then you can choose from, let's create it from new, because we don't have any control. This module doesn't have any control. It just installs, but it doesn't appear in the add module selection because it doesn't have an UI. It just plugs into action form. So I just say create a new one, and I'll create it from this folder. You can place it in a subfolder, and Visual Studio did that for me, but it's called the same. And also you should be very careful about having dots in directory names. Some security firewalls don't like this. So we had this problem in the past with some servers where we had the URLs that contained a dot. They didn't like them. Okay, so maybe C#, although it doesn't matter that much. Am I required to do that? Okay, let's just do it, and then after that we'll delete it. So it requires me to create I've just inputted some data, so it creates the manifest file, because that's what I need. I need a package. So actually I need to create the package. Okay, and then I'll edit manually, and I'll show you what needs to be. Okay, created from the folder. Action form core DLL. No, we don't want this. But instead, we'll want the configuration file. Okay, I'll just leave it for it to create whatever it thinks is best, but I will probably have to do the whole thing manually. And I'll use a more sophisticated tool for this. I cannot do it in Windows Explorer. So it should have created the package in the install folder. In the modules folder, and here, see, this is the new module, and we said we're gonna name it action form.bulk tags. Okay, I open it in the right pane. Here we have a DNN file, which is the manifest that basically tells DNN where should each file go. So I'll just edit this, remove some of the duplicates. I will remove the dots from the directory name, and also prevent it from creating two directories. Okay. Now I don't need any module controls. I'm not sure about module definitions, if I need them. Actually, I will just go and grab what we have for search boost, because I already did that once, and I'll just grab the code and go briefly over it. And at the end, I will take the whole files and publish it along with the videos, so you can get them and have this as an example. So here it's basically a PDF indexer for search boost, and actually it does the same thing. On installation, it copies some assemblies In this case, there are quite a few of them. And then it copies some configuration files. And I will use the same approach. Okay, so I don't need this at all. We don't have a module, so this can disappear completely. Okay. We have one assembly, this is correct. And then we'll have one more node for the resource file. And here we can actually, I could have actually only placed only one file, I think. But I did a resource file, so I can place multiple files if I want. And here I don't like this mechanism, I will show you a different one. So basically I will leave it like this and reproduce the file paths inside the resources.zip file. So I can actually place one file here and one file there if I need to. Okay. Okay, so this is the DLL. Let's see what else. What else? Oh, okay. Very important is the requirement. So here you see the dependency says that this extension of Certboost requires the Certboost module, and here we need to do the same. And we need to say that it depends on the action form module. And here also you can add the minimum version of DNN that is required. In this case, I think taxonomy was added maybe in 6 something. So you have to check that out. Okay, so let's also create the zip file. Okay, this is good. And now I'll have to create a zip file with the configuration file. So I said that I was going to copy the whole path, so I'll just create it here. And I'll just copy this file. Okay, so now I'll just pack this into resources.zip and I will delete it. Where did it go? Okay, it went here, and I have to place it inside this other zip, and I'll have to delete this. Okay, so now my action form that bulk tag 100 looks like this. It has this DNN file that basically says this name and some components, the only DLL file and the resources, and DNN will actually unpack these resources file zip into the root of the website, because I instructed it like this. So it will go into desktop modules, and here it goes the same structure until the config, where it places this new file. So now I will just pause this video and I will go and install it on a new site to demonstrate this. Okay, it's done. I have to do a few modifications to the DNN file. So first of all, I changed the dependent assembly. This is the correct name, and I took it from the DNN file of the action form. So you see actually here package name, and it needs to be the exact same string. And what else? I think this is it. Okay, so now I went to a new DNN, and this is DNN 6.2.3. I've installed latest action form. I don't have the extension yet. I will install it now. So you have to locate it. It's in the installed folder of the other DNN where I tested 7.1.1. This is 6.2.3. So it's also good practice to test on different version. Okay, so it installed without problems because I've already fixed them. And now you see it's created here, and I can go and add a new module to test it real quick. I don't know if taxonomy is supported in 6.2.3, but we'll see that in a minute. Or I think we would have already seen, because when the assembly was put in the bin folder, .NET would know that it misses some references. So you see the new module is not here because it doesn't have any UI, but it does exist in host extensions. I'm just adding a new action form module to the page. And configure it. And add a new lash text and a new button. And here you see the DNN is already here. Okay, and I select the new field. So far no surprises. Saving, going back. Tag 1, tag 2, submit. Looks like a success. Let's confirm this. Taxonomy, tags. Yep, they're here. So no surprises, everything went smooth. So what happened is that when I installed the new package, it just put two files. It put the assembly, the DLL file in the bin folder, and it put the configuration file in the action form folder. And now, if I were to go and uninstall this, it would actually remove only those two files. So if I uninstall this, and I will go back to the home page, I will notice that probably it will throw an error, maybe, when I try to submit, telling that that action doesn't exist because the config file is gone. And we see, okay, so it gives some sort of error. Not the friendliest error, but it's an error. Okay, so this was the long version of this video. There is also a shorter version coming up, and I will go over all the steps once again. So to make a summary, so the first thing, you have to create the configuration, and you create that in the desktop modules in action form config folder. So this is the folder, and this is also true for other type of customization that I will do separate videos in the future. Okay, so step 1, create the configuration file, and you can build the whole UI just from the configuration file. You don't have to implement nothing so far. Step 2 is to implement the logic, and that is to start a new project, implement the code that reads the parameters and does something with it, and then remember to copy the assembly to the bin folder, otherwise it will not execute. And finally, you have to package it, or if you have your own deployment procedure, then you don't have to package it. And one more important thing I want to mention, in our case, we didn't build any UI, any scripts, any web interfaces. So we don't have anything that can be accessed. It's just that action that can be only invoked by action 4. But imagine you would implement something like a payment gateway. Then you would have to implement some handlers to communicate with the payment gateway, because the payment gateway will say, this is a success, this is a failure. So how you'd want to implement it is actually read data from the form, on submit, either process the payment or redirect to process the payment, depends on how you integrate. So let's say you process the payment locally, but you don't have an immediate response. So you call, let's say you call a web service from the payment gateway. The payment gateway says pending. Okay, so what do? You go and display a message, and then you also have to have a HTTP handler to receive notification from the web service when it says, okay, I'm done, the payment is successful, or the same payment is failure. And then you want to trigger the rest of the actions. To do that, maybe you can create, let's say, 2 events for the payment action that you're implementing, one for the success, one for the failure. So when it's a success, you execute a list of action like, okay, create the user, grant the roles, give him access everywhere. And if it's a failure, okay, send an email that says, sorry, the payment failed, would you like to retry again? So on and so on. Then you would have to have that HTTP handler. And depending on the case, sometimes you need to have custom UI, you need to have intermediate steps, I don't know. But that's also possible. And it's possible by doing redirects or by implementing some handlers that trigger something else. But I'll probably follow up with another video on events and handlers and how to communicate like that. So this video is already too long and a lot of new things to try. Okay, thank you for your time.